Hi friends, today we'll discuss an important current affairs topic of polity. It is about role of governors. It is about role of governors. Actually, this role of governors is always in a controversy, whether it is a unitary government or whether it is having a government with coalition or a government with a single party majority. It is still a lot of debate. And UPSC has also asked a lot of questions on this role of governors. And there are various commissions that are appointed in our country to study the central state relations and to study the administrative reforms, has also recommended for this changing role of governor. But what is this system of governor and what the constitution says about this governor and what are the functions of governor and how the governor is functioning now? And most of this theoretical part of the governor, you will study it as a part of the subject polity, but I will take some very important aspects that are recently happening and what could be solution to that and how we need to understand the problem and what are the experts or the different commissions has suggested already to solve that problem. So if you see recently, some of the states are facing some problems with the governors, especially the states like West Bengal, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Telangana, they are having some problem. And if you see the case of the Delhi Lieutenant Governor, he is not a governor, but that's a different setup. But if you see it clearly, wherever a party ruling in a different state is different to that of party that is ruling at the union level, then definitely this question of a role of governor is coming. So wherever the same party, that means the party at the union level and the party at the state level is same, in those states this problem is not coming. But whereas in case of these opposition parties ruled states, there exactly the problem of this governor is coming. So whose problem it is? Is it the governors are breaching the limit or is it the state governments are breaching the limit? We will see now. But before that I will give just an introduction to the governor so that you will understand the rest of the topic. Under Article 153 of the Indian Constitution, there shall be a governor, and according to under Article 153 of the Constitution, there shall be a governor for every state. Under Article 155, the President of India appoints the governor. So the governor of a state shall be appointed by the President of India. President of India is an appointing authority to the governor. And who will remove this governor? This governor will be in a position as long as he enjoys the pleasure of the President of India under Article 156. That means if the governor loses the pleasure of the President of India, then immediately he will lose the office. I will come to that point little bit later. But this governor is appointed by the President of India. Then President of India appoints who as the governor? He can appoint anyone as a governor. There are some minimum qualifications like age criteria and he must be a citizen of India that he need to fulfill. But apart from that, it is completely it's completely an appointment by the President of India. President of India can appoint anyone. Why actually this setup was brought here? Because in the Constituent Assembly debates and in the draft constitution, that means the not original constitution, in the draft constitution we mentioned something different about this governor. Actually, what initially we thought is, if you take the case of America, there you have an elected governors. In some of the countries like Canada, you are having this nominated governor. That means a governor from the central government. And in the draft constitution, we mentioned it as there must be an elected governor. We mentioned about elected governor. Or we said like the state legislature will elect some 4 people, and from among the panel of 4, the President of India will select one as the governor. But we were at that point of time, the Constituent Assembly and the leaders at that point of time, they decided not to go with this model, but to go with the present day model. The reason behind this present day model is, already our constitution is of having some sort of federal nature. That means from the single constitution, both union and state is drawing the power, and union government is having its own separate existence under the constitution. At the same time, state government is also having its separate existence under the same constitution. And most of the powers are given to these elected governments. When already there is an elected government, if you make an elected governor or a governor elected by the legislature of that particular state, it creates some sort of rivalry, or it creates some sort of competition between the elected chief minister and the elected governor. So this will lead to some problem. That is the reason why what we have thought is not to have an elected governor, or not to have a governor elected by the house itself. So that's why simply we make it as a nominated post, like President of India will appoint him. Why you need a governor? First of all, why you need a governor? See, governor position is needed because it's a ceremonial post. Ceremonial post in the sense, earlier king used to be there, and king don't know much of the things. King is always assisted by so many people. And what are all these people discuss, and if they come up with a decision, this king used to approve it. Because king specially don't have anything to do. He will just sit in that whatever the seat and he will administer. Entire administration is run on the name of the king, and king don't have much role to play, and he will be assisted by lot of people, and king can override it. King can have that overriding power. But in a democracy, we don't want to give that overriding power to the governor, and he is just like a referee. If something it comes to the notice of the governor and he says like, if it's better if you do in this way, that means the governor will try to his level best to prevent the mistakes done by the cabinet. Suppose if the cabinet in the sense, if the state government commits any mistake, he will try to give a suggestion like, no, please don't do this, just think on this, because it's not look like good. Because governments may not do always correct, though they are elected by the people. So it prevents the mistakes by the cabinet, and it enable the government to influence the ministerial policies better. So that means the governor will influence the policy of the government. Here I am using the word influence. Influence in the sense, you don't need to directly go and tell them, but you can say like, okay, this with your thoughts, with your suggestions, you can influence, but you should not intervene with them. If they don't make a policy which you likes, then you can't intervene in that. You can only make an influence. You can only have an influence. So you can have an influence, and you can make the policies for the betterment of the policies. At the same time, governor position is there to prevent the mistakes by the cabinet. And you need to, because the government has an every right to encourage. So governor will encourage the government. Governor will warn the government. So this is a referral. He acts as a referral. That is the reason why we have created the governor system. And The entire administration in the state is runs on the name of the governor, and he is the protector of the constitution at the state level. Like how President of India is guardian of the constitution at the union level, likewise at the state level the President of India, the governor of a particular state is a protector of the constitution. It is a constitutional head, it is a constitutional position, he is the constitutional head. He is the constitutional head, and he will be appointed by the President of India. Simply I can say like he is the representative of the President of India at the state level. He is the representative of the President of India at the state level, or you can call it as he is the representative of the union government at the state level to protect the constitution, but he is not an agent. He is not an agent. When you say agent, it has its own meaning. Agent means whatever they are saying, you have to implement it, but he is not an agent. He is a constitutional head. He is there to protect the constitution. He is to look after the entire administration should run on constitutional lines. If it is not on constitutional lines, immediately he will send a report to the President of India that, sir, here the constitution, here the administration is not running according to the constitution. Constitution machinery has broken down in the state. Please intervene and set it right. That he can do. But apart from that, does really the governors have any specific power? Apart from that, governors are having some powers, but all the powers except discretionary power, all the powers except discretionary powers are exercised by the governor only on the advice of Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers. Then what is this discretionary power? And it is the governor will decide what is discretionary power is all about. Especially this discretionary power will be exercised in exercising the executive functions and 5th and 6th schedule of the constitution. For the scheduled areas and tribal areas, governors are having a separate executive power. That too, governor alone cannot execute this power, and all that governor's powers has to get the assent of the President of India. So as a governor in his individual capacity, he can't do anything. In remaining function, he has to work on the advice of Council of Minister. In this discretionary aspect, he has to take the permission of the President of India. President of India. So it's something, a ceremonial position. He is a nominal executive of the state. On his name the entire administration runs, but on every aspect he has to work on the advice of the Council of Ministers. This is exactly the position of the governor in the constitution. If the position is so clear about this, then why governor's role has become controversy? Because in understanding the powers of the governor, we are misinterpreting. I will tell you some examples so that you can understand. But before that, Ambedkar has clearly mentioned in the Constitutional Assembly debates, like the governor under the constitution has no function which he can discharge by himself. The governor has not given any specific function which he can discharge by himself. No, he can't do anything by himself. He has to depending on the Council of Ministers, because on the advice of Council of Ministers only he will act. In case of 5th and 6th, this discretionary function, the President of India, normally they don't take much decisions, but President of India is always ready to give his permission. But the point is, Ambedkar said the governors under the constitution has no functions which he can discharge by himself. He has certain duties to perform. He don't have functions on his discretion, but he has certain duties. He must perform these duties. He must perform his duties. So what are the duties? Whatever the Council of Ministers recommends, he has to do that. So instead of a powerful governor, what the constitution conceived was a duty bound governor. That means you don't have a powerful governor because you don't have a powers. If you have a powers, then you can be a powerful governor. But when you don't have a functions and when you don't have a power, how can you will be the powerful governor? You cannot be a powerful governor, but you have to be a duty bound governor. But governors will play an important role mainly at the time of the formation of the governments. If no party get a clear cut majority, then the governor roles has become so clear. And when a government loses majority in the house, then governors will become so critical, because they need to dissolve the assembly, or they need to give a chance to the other people, and in the first case to whom, which person they have to appoint it as the chief minister of a state, and especially these cases they are having some special powers. That too they cannot use their discretion, but there are some precedents are already there, so they need to follow the precedents. Now it has become very difficult for the governors to exercise their own discretion, because on the above everyone there is a body called judiciary. So are you really working constitutionally or not? They are going to decide the whatever the things that are happening in our country. So now they are observing everything, because if at all I give some sort of historical aspect to you, just I am brief about that. Up to 1967, that means the fourth general elections, there was no problem, because the first two terms it was the Nehru period, and after that it was the Congress party again. Later it has got the problem. In the year 1967, what happened is, when we went for the elections fourth time, what happened was, the Congress party has lost the majority. And different states. When Congress party has lost the majority and different states, then immediately the party which is in power at the state, in some states, is different to that of party at the union, and these states started exercising some power. Then they have started controlling these state governments by using the governors. Until 1994, this provision of Article 356, that means the president rule, that was imposed around 100 times in the state government. That means by using the governor, union government has imposed the president rule. That means they dismiss the governments. From Namboodiripad government, we can see many governments. And in Punjab, first time it was dismissed, and later with Namboodiripad, and after that many it happened. So that is how they have started controlling the state governments. But in the year 1994, in S.R. Bommai judgment, the Supreme Court has laid a clear guiding principles, like you cannot impose Article 356 whenever you want. You can't dismiss the governments whenever you want. There must be a constitutional basis, and I am here to review every of your decision. Don't think that you can dismiss automatically. They said governor cannot think like this particular government has lost the majority. That has to be proved on the floor of the house. And on the floor of the house, if really chief minister loses the majority, then definitely you have to dismiss it. But otherwise, simply you can't dismiss just by observing it from the outside. The floor test is a something benchmark. So to some extent, the Supreme Court judgment of 1994 has given some sort of has placed some sort of regulation, or has drawn some sort of Lakshmana Rekha for the powers of governor. And after that it was okay, after that it has continued normally. Recently we have seen, that means 3-4 years back, in this, when the President of India imposed the president rule in state of Uttarakhand and in the state of Arunachal Pradesh, Supreme Court is intervened and they said nothing doing, this is something wrong, and they have restored the governments again. But the imposing of Article 356 by the governors was not happening today, but it was once upon a time, it was a regular phenomenon. But apart from that, these governors are playing now a very different role. Now the governors are playing a very different role, because already Supreme Court is there to look after this 356. Now it's not possible for the governor to dismiss the, or central government to dismiss the governors. But now we are getting a different problem. Now I will come to what exactly the problem that we are getting in a recent time. I will tell you some of the things that are happening. Some governors in recent days, they don't want to read the speech of the budget. They don't want to read the governor address, because governor must address the house. Based on one of other reason, they want to skip these speeches, because governor shall address both the houses of state legislature in the first meeting of that year, in the first session of that year. That's a constitutional duty. But some people, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it with one or other pretext. Some state governments, they don't want governor speech to be there in the assembly. So they don't want governor speech. They don't want governor speech. They don't want governor speech. Does constitution permits it? They are making the rules in such a way that by using the technical flaws, they are making it possible. They are making it possible. But the precedent is that the governor must read and the state government must invite the governor to read. So in some cases, governors are not interested in reading. In some cases, state government itself is not interested in inviting the governors. Some governors, they don't want to give assent to the bills. They don't want to give assent to the bills, because governors are thinking like giving assent to the bill is the power of the governor, discretionary power of the governor. The governor can give his assent or cannot give his assent. That's what they are having. Just I will explain this point with little elaboration a little bit late. But next, some governors don't want to convene the assembly sessions whenever the executive want. Some governors don't want to convene the sessions when executive want. That means when the cabinet want. When the cabinet is interested to call the session, some of the states are not some of the governors are not interested in convening the session, because after prorogation it is the governor has to give a order to summon the house. The order has to come from the governor, but they don't want the sessions to be convened at the will or at the interest of the executive. Some of the state governments, they don't want the house to be prorogued by the governor. Some of the state governments, they don't want house to be prorogued by the governor. Simply they are under urgent sanadai and they are not sending this thing to the governor to prorogue it, because if next time again when if he asks the governor to summon it, maybe he will summon or not. So some of the state governments, they don't want it to be prorogued by the governor. Some of the governors don't want to convene the session after prorogue whenever the executive wants. Next, and some of the governors are returning the bills. Some of the governors are returning the bills. Can't the governors return the bill? Okay, I will come to that later. Some of the governors are returning the bills. And some of the governors, they are having some problem with the speakers. They are having the problem with the speakers. They are having the problem with the speakers. And some of the governors, when the state government recommends something, they are not approving it. 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 Some of the state governments, they are not approving the recommendations made by the state government. Some of the governors are having some problem with the speaker. Some of the governments are returning the bills. Some of the governors, they don't want to convene a session. Some of the governments, they don't want the house to be prorogued by the governor. Some of the government don't want to give assent to the bills. Some of the state governments, they don't want governor speech, governor address in the house. Some of the governors, they don't want to read they don't want to address the house. Next. Some of the governors, they are interested in meddling with the politics of the state. Some of the governors, they are involving in the politics of the some of the governors, they are involved in the politics of the state. Some of the governors, they are involved in the politics of the state. Some of the governors, they don't follow the precedents when forming the government. When forming the government. Some of the governors, they are involved in, they are doing politics whenever the formation of governments are happening. So likewise, the governors are playing some sort of active role. Likewise, some of the governors are playing an active role. And some of the governors even summoning the officers for review meetings. Some of the governors summoning the officers for review meetings. Some of the governors, they don't want to be chancellor of university. Chancellors of universities. Some of the governors, they don't want the they don't want governor to be the chancellor of universities. Some of the governors, they don't want to be chancellor of universities in that particular state. Some of the states, they don't want governor to be chancellor of universities. Some of the states, they don't want governor to be chancellor of universities. These are all different problems, or these are all the conflicting areas. That's where now the governors and the state governments are at the loggerheads. Now I will discuss some of the points so that you can make your answer. One is I will come to this politics of a governor little bit later. But the most important point is governor shall address. When I say governor shall address, it is duty on both the governor and as well as the state government to make sure that governor's speech should be there. Neither government cannot deny it, nor the governor cannot deny it by showing a technical reasons. It's not possible, because it is there in the constitution. Because I said the governor is a duty bound governor, he shall address. But the state government sometimes creating problems, sometimes governors are creating the problems. When it comes to the assent to the bills, this is actually the most possible area of this confrontation. Actually, governors feel like they have a discretionary power to assent the bill, to give the assent to the bill, because the governor have the power either to assent the bill, either to withhold the bill, either to send it for reconsideration, or for the sending it for the or send it for the consideration of the President of India. But once he send it for reconsideration, if it is sent back again second time, then he has to approve. You don't have any other option. But the point here is, we must understand one important aspect. There is a legislature, executive is part of legislature in our setup, and the governor is head of this entire executive, is a nominal executive. When a legislature passed any legislation, and most of the legislations what we are passing is the government legislations only. Normally we are not passing the private member legislation. But the point is, whenever any house taken up any business, that means any legislation, it will come to the governor. Now the purpose is, sometimes the legislature may be so hasty in implementing something. Sometimes some private people may bring the bill, and if the house accept to that bill, if that bill is not proper, if the government thinks that that cannot be implementable or that is something wrong, now this executive can always advise. That means this council of ministers advise the governor how to act on this. That means in our constitutional setup, though the legislature passed a legislation, but still there is a chance like the executive can exercise his opinion on this legislation, because until and unless governor signs it, it cannot become the law. But governor signing means governor has to take the advice from the executive, and whether the legislature was so correct in its implementation process, the legislature was so correct in making the law or not, then he can give the assent, and thereby this has become the law. But what we interpreting today is, and I will tell you another case also. After that I will come to how we are interpreting today. There are some cases, the bill has passed by the earlier legislature, that means earlier legislature in the previous house. Now after that this bill came to governor. Immediately the government has lost the majority, this house is dissolved, and they went for the election, and you have come up with a new legislature now. Now the new executive can recommend to the governor that whatever the bill that was passed by the earlier legislature was in haste, it's not a good thing, so please don't approve it. Then governor say, okay, I don't approve it. So this actually intended when we are discussing the bills. Unfortunately, today the discussion has reached to a very different thing. What is the different thing is, we consider this entire legislature as not as a legislature but as an executive, because most of the time only executive bills are going to pass, and this governor is thinking like he is a super executive. Now whatever the executive passes, and I don't want to accept it. This is how the system reached today. Today we are thinking like governor is thinking like a super executive. I have any power, I can do anything, because this government is doing something wrong. And you forget like it is the legislature that is doing, and I have to act on the advice of the executive, because the setup has created to contain the hasteness of the legislature by the executive, not by the hasteness of the executive by the super executive like you. This is problem. This is understanding problem. That is the reason why now the governors are thinking like, I have a power, so I can do anything. Actually he has to act on the advice of the council of ministers. And whenever if any legislature passed any new thing which is not in the capacity of the house, then immediately this cabinet has to advise the governor to send it for the consideration of the union government. So though the house is a sovereign body, it cannot do whatever it wants. That is what exactly the intention behind this entire procedure. But today we are making it in a different way. This is one more area of problem where we are doing. So the governor should understand that. The governor should understand that. When it comes to the chancellors, already there was a committee called Sarkaria Committee. Sorry, there was a committee called Punchy Committee. Punchy Committee has already recommended that the governor should be relieved of this chancellor function. Governor should be relieved from the chancellor function. Let he only perform the constitutional duty. Why he need to intervene into this? Let it be confined to only those functions. Next, when it comes to this speaker function, when it comes to the speaker functions, and next when it comes to this recommendation, I will come to that, recommendations. Speaker function. So this governor and speaker, now they are at the loggerheads. What is the problem with this speaker? What is the problem with this speaker? I will tell you, there are some instances where the governor and speaker are getting the problem. First one is when a minister is arrested. So only with the prior sanction of the governor, a minister can be arrested. Again, he is exercising his own discretion, but that has to be on the advice of cabinet, but anyway they are. So when a minister is arrested, but he is also a member of legislature, speaker is considering it as the violation of the privilege of a member, but whereas governor is considering like the minister arrest is proper. So it's a contradiction again. Governor is saying like it's correct because this minister is an opposition party minister and speaker is a ruling party speaker. He is saying like it is attack on the privileges of the member. So one is contradicting with each other. Second one, when it comes to the proving of majority, if really governor needs to prove, governor has any thought in his mind like this government has lost the majority, then immediately he can convene a session and he will ask the speaker to conduct this floor test and let the government prove the majority. But when the house is in session, the governor cannot dictate the speaker. The governor cannot dictate the speaker to conduct the floor test. It is the house completely under the control of speaker and there is a proper procedure. Again there is a conflict when it comes to this confidence motions and all. Speaker wanted to give some time or the governor wanted it immediately. And speaker is saying like you can't enter into my purview. Next, there is another possible area of speaker and governor is, suppose if a member of legislature, if he resigned, then who has to decide whether his resignation is correct or not or proper or not? It is the speaker has to decide. But in some cases, if the ruling party's MLAs are resigning, then the speaker is not accepting that resignations, but whereas governor is thinking like the ruling party has lost the majority, so then they need to go for this test. That means here he is not accepted the resignation. This was happened in Karnataka. He is not accepting the resignation. On the other hand, governor thinks that it is not, the government is not enjoying the majority because already people have submitted their resignation. Speaker wantedly not accepting their resignations. So these are some of the possible areas where speaker is conflicting with the governor. And the governor is, whenever a government recommend for any position, whether it is legislative council or anything, these governors are not implementing it. Because for all these things, what is the reason that the governors are saying is, governors are portraying themselves as we are the protector of the constitution. So to save the constitution, we are taking all these decisions. Because we are in a constitutional position, that is the reason why our duty is to protect the constitution. That is the reason why we are protecting the constitution. The point is, I do agree that the governor is having a function to protect the constitution, but which act is constitutional, which act is not constitutional, who can decide it? Who can decide it? Even if it is a repeated case also, the governor is the not right person to decide which act is constitutional and which act is not constitutional. The constitutionality of anything in this country is decided by the judiciary. How can you decide the constitutionality of so and so particular act? Because state government is saying like it is constitutional, governor is saying like it's an unconstitutional. But can a governor interpret the constitution and say that which is constitutional and which is not constitutional? Does really governor is having such a power to declare something as a constitutional and something is unconstitutional? No. And even some of the governors are regularly meeting the prime ministers and home ministers. It is something wrong. It is a constitutional position and you must meet the President of India. You must report to the President of India. You are not supposed to communicate with the prime minister and home minister, though they are constitutional positions. This is what happening. So the protector of constitution, something is questionable. Something is because you are not the one to interpret the constitution. You are not the one to interpret the constitution. And some of the state governments, those who are having some sort of animosity or some sort of concerns with the union government, now they are scapegoating these governors in this. That means they themselves creating some problems to the governors in order to take revenge on this union government, or in order to create some sort of negative sentiments in the minds of the people. They are deliberately attacking on the governors. This is also not correct. But the only possible thing to avoid all these problems is already a lot of committees are recommended for that, but again I am giving the list of those some of the recommendations, and after that I will try to summarize how system must be changed. If at all in the year, actually there are some commissions recommended for this already: Sarkaria Commission, Punchy Commission and First Administrative Reforms Commission. The First Administrative Reforms Commission of 1969. So the first ARC of 1969, what they have recommended for the governor is the appointment of a person having long experience in public life and administration and non-partisan attitude as a governor. So the person who are appointed as a governor must be having some long experience in public life and as well as administration, and he must be non-partisan enough. That was given by the ARC. After that, Sarkaria Commission. This is the first Center-State Relation Commission. It was appointed in 1983. So RS Sarkaria. And Sarkaria Commission has recommended for this. The procedure of consulting the Chief Minister before appointing the governor should be there. So procedure of consulting the Chief Minister in appointment of the state governor. So now they are consulting, but consultation doesn't mean that concurrence. Union government cannot appoint a person which state government likes. But in case of friendly states they are doing like, but in case of other they are appointing their own people. Okay. So they said like Chief Minister should be consulted. Next one. The governor cannot dismiss the council of ministers. That means a governor cannot dismiss the governments whenever it wants. Anyhow, after 1994 SR Bommai judgment, it was so clear, but RS Sarkaria has also recommended for that. And governor must be an outsider and he is a person of eminence. So try to bring outside people as the governor and a person of eminence as the governor. Don't bring these politicians and the local people into for the governorship. That is what they recommended. And even they recommended like governor must not be removed before the completion of 5 years except in a rare and compelling circumstances. So whatever the 5-year tenure, actually now governor don't have a tenure. Actually he will be in a position as long as he enjoys the pleasure of the President of India, but he must not be removed prior to the 5 years, prior to the completion of 5 years. Next, Punchy Commission has also recommended for this, because UPSC was also asked the question on this, on governors, Punchy Commission. So what Punchy Commission has said? Punchy Commission has said to such an extent that governor shall have a fixed tenure. Governor shall have a fixed tenure, and even they recommended that you must amend the Article 156 to lay down a procedure for removal of governor. Removal of governor, they have recommended for that. Even recently in Kerala state, some people have demanded like the state legislature should have a power to remove the governor. Okay. Next, what Punchy Commission has recommended is governor should be an eminent person in some walks of life. So he should be an eminent person, and he should be a person from outside the state. That means whatever the Sarkaria has recommended, they have reiterated. He should be detached figure, not too intimately connected with the local politics. So he should be a non-political person. Person not to take part in politics, at least in recent time. Okay. So normally politicians don't bring to this position. That's what they said. And on bills, the Punchy Commission recommended that there must be a fixed time period within which the governor should give assent, or should whatever the action he want to take, that action he can. Because some of the governors are withholding the assent. Withholding the assent means they neither accepting, they are just keeping with themselves. It creates lot of problems. Next, guidelines to governors to form the government. For governors, they have formed the guidelines. So if at all there is no clear-cut majority to the political parties in the state, how will you form the government? First, majority party. Next, pre-poll alliance. Next, majority, suppose even pre-poll alliance party also don't get majority. Majority party with the support of other parties, or post-poll coalition. And after that, if there nothing is possible, nothing above things are possible, then you can go for any other person. That means any majority party person you can appoint. That clear-cut procedure must be laid down. And the governor acting as a chancellor of universities and other statutory positions should be done away with, and his role should be confined to the constitutional positions. If you looking into the recommendation, and even in the year 2010, in BP Singhal versus Union of India, actually in that what they have said is, though union government is having a power to remove the governor or to recall the governor, but it cannot be done in an arbitrary, unreasonable way. It cannot be done arbitrarily, unreasonable way. If really there are some circumstances, you can, otherwise you can't do that. Because whenever the government at the union level changes, definitely they will change the governors. And it has started since 1970s. 1970s onwards, Congress party has done, Janata party has done, Congress party again done, BJP has done. So every party is doing the same thing. So don't consider governors as an agents. And the only one of the major solution that we can offer is try to clearly define the discretionary power of governor. First point, discretionary power. So governor must not have this discretionary power, because as far as the role of the governor is concerned, it is a ceremonial post. He don't have any power. He is just a duty bound governor, and his position must be laid very clear. Second one is this apolitical persons, that means the persons which are not involved with the politics should be appointed as the governor. Then all these problems go. Because state governments, they don't want to take a revenge on this governor if there are some politicians, if there are some bureaucrats. But nowadays even some bureaucrats are also, that means the apolitical persons are also taking some sides. So the point here is like, I cannot clearly say like only politicians will politicize. If it is apolitical people, they don't make politics. No, the point is anyone can do the politics. The only thing, the people who are holding the position of governor, they must behave like the governor, and for that, wherever the scope for discretion is there, those discretions must be cut down. Those discretion must be cut down, because governors should not consider themselves as the protector of the constitution. They should not take anything into law and order. They cannot take anything into their own hands, because the constitution has not envisages that. And if really state government is doing something wrong, definitely judiciary is there to take care about it. If it is really grossly violated, governors can take a decision, and the decisions of the governor can again be reviewed by the Supreme Court. But the point is, as a matter of day-to-day administration, if the governors are intervening into this, then it is not at all good. At the same time, the states which are having some sort of animosity or some sort of rivalry with the union government, they can do it electorally. That means if they have something, they can fight it electorally. They can do it in other platform, but they should not misuse these constitutional positions, either by making some derogatory statements on the governor or by derogating the position of the governor. This should not be done. This should not be done. If they have the politics, they can do the politics. That's a different story. But the constitutional positions are not at all be downgraded. And some people are seriously questioning, like, does we really need the office of the governor? Does we really need the office of the governor? But somewhere you need some sort of referee, because it is in our constitutional setup. We said like you need a clear-cut mechanism. We want to introduce the governor in our constitution because we thought that an element of harmony would be there, and that institutions will bring about some sort of understanding and harmony about different groups. With that intention we kept it. But unfortunately, because of the misinterpretation of the position and mostly because of the politics, we are misusing this position. We need to set it right. No, the governor has much role, but he always acts like a guide. No, he is always like a philosopher. He can do that. So this is something about the position of the governor and the functions of the governor. Now in present day, where exactly we are getting the problems with the governor, and what are the reasons for that, and what constitution says that, how they are misinterpreting, and what are the different commissions have recommended for that, and what we can do with these things. So this is something about governors. Governor can influence, but governor should not intervene. Governor should not be an active governor, because his position is not active in the constitution. He will be only passive, and he must be a duty bound governor, but not a powerful governor. This is what we need to understand. Whatever the constitutional savior, that's what we are projecting. You are the protector of the constitution, but governors must also understand they are not the interpreters of the constitution. Okay, so this is something about the role of governors in the present day. Thank you.
Amrita IAS Academy.